Hi, how's it going? This is Chris Weldon. I'm partnering with Dave Walczyk, and we are doing a presentation on information systems for our management of information systems class. So essentially, in terms of an information system with collaboration, basic definition of collaboration would be, two or more people working together to achieve any given goal or result. That's just like your basic definition. In order to effectively collaborate, you have to, as a partner, as a group, you have to review and provide feedback, right? To keep improving, and you have to keep repeating that process. It's not a very simple, like straightforward, okay, we're going to do this one time, we're going to review what each other have done, and then we're done. Like it's literally like, okay, we review, we refine, and we keep doing that. So it takes multiple people to give input, essentially. Now when you're talking about collaboration, communication is obviously probably the most important piece, right? Communication is necessary in order to review something, give feedback. You have to be able to communicate effectively. Now whether that's in person, whether that's over different modalities or whatever it may be. When it comes to managing content, different content is going to include your documents that you're using, your schedulings, different tasks or assignments. So you have to break that up and in order to collaborate effectively. And as far as the workflow, you have to decide who's going to do what within the collaboration, right? I mean, not everyone should just be focused on every little thing. You need to figure out who's gonna do what and when they're gonna do it, and that's kind of the flow of the work, basically. Now, the 5 components of an information system are hardware, software, which make up the IT, the data, obviously, which is going to be like your documents and discussion lists or tasks, procedures, which are what people are doing, essentially. And then when it comes to people, it's communication and back to that collaboration. So obviously all these pieces tie in together to make an information system, and all those pieces are collaborating together. Like you can't have an information system without your IT, right? Without communicating with your IT, as far as like, if your hardware needs to collaborate, needs to be effective enough to have like good enough software for you to like get the data that you want, and the procedures have to fall in line with the people that you have, and the people need to be able to use the software and collect the data and have the given system. So basically, the steps for collaboration in a simple sense, you need to establish a purpose. Like, what are we doing here? So we have a group, right? And we want to collaborate. So, you have to have your purpose. Once you establish what the purpose of this collaboration is for, you need to develop a plan. Once a plan is well thought out and made, you need to execute the plan. You need to perform it, and then finally, you need to, after your purpose and plan are met and you've performed what you're looking to do, you need to finalize it, refine it, and make sure that it's ready to go and submit or put into place, put into practice, whatever it is. But these are some major steps of collaboration. And we'll hand it over to Joe here, or to Dave, I'm sorry.
Hey, Chris, thank you for that. I will now be talking about innovation. All right. All right. So there are many ways that companies have used information systems to become more innovative. To start off, a great example of an innovative information system is using this laptop to do this presentation. The computer is the hardware. The software is Google Handouts, On Air, or Skype for Business if you're using that. The data is my PowerPoint and the information I'm presenting to you right now. The procedures are opening Google Handouts, logging in, doing the presentation, then submitting it to Canvas. And lastly, the people involved are the viewers, Chris, and I. Major companies such as Walmart, Ford, and Deloitte use Skype for Business all over the world so that they can communicate with their offices, suppliers, and clients that either do not have the time to meet face-to-face or that they are overseas. This software is a great innovative advancement in the business world. An information system that falls under this category of product innovation is the Microsoft Band. This product goes around the user's wrist, and what it does is it tracks the calories, distance traveled, heart rate, steps, and sleep quality. In this information system, the actual band itself is the hardware. The software would be the heart rate monitor, the UV sensor, the accelerometer, and the ambient light sensor. It also has a microphone to summon its personal assistant, Cortana. The data is your heart rate, distance traveled, steps, and sleep quality. The procedures are turning it on, doing your workout. Then the band syncs this data to your home computer or smartphone, and then you can review your data that has just been tracked. And the person involved is the user of the band. Now, moving along to process innovation, a good example of this would be Dell computers. When Dell was founded, obviously Dell did not invent the PC, but it did invent new business processes to bring PCs to market, eliminating unnecessary steps in supply chain while offering more flexibility and control to the customer. Dell relies on a unique supply chain strategy that gathers large volumes of customer information through its direct sales model and shares it with internal procurement and sales departments, as well as external suppliers. These close relationships with customers and suppliers allow Dell to know what they must be able to supply in real time. And then they are very quick and precise to meet that demand while maintaining low inventory. Dell is not manufacturing finished goods and hoping their customers will buy them. However, the relationships that they have with the majority of their customers enable them to forecast accurately without filling a pipeline of finished goods. This allows Dell to have a lower amount of unsold products compared to its industry. These processes had become Dell's main differentiator in the competitive marketplace. Process innovation was the basis for starting and growing this company. Now moving along to a company that has innovated their business model. This company is Airbnb. One of Airbnb's other differentiators is the equality between the person offering great accommodation and the person using it. Guests can rate the accommodation of the place that they just recently stayed in. However, that is not new. We have been able to do this on TripAdvisor and through many hotel chains for a long time. But the peer-to-peer accommodation network, the host also gets to rate and review the guests. Now, this is new. Here's an example. Let's say I am the owner of the house, leaving a rating on my guest Chris and saying that he was not too much fun to have around the house and that he left it messy with some damages. In doing that, I affect Chris's ability to ever find accommodation on a peer-to-peer review network again. I could also leave a positive review saying that Chris respected my house and left it just as clean as when he got there, and that would affect his customer rating in a positive way. The system rewards good host and good guest behavior and punishes bad host and bad guest behavior. Again, this is completely different than anything else in the traditional accommodation market. And that is all for innovation. I will now turn it over back to Chris, and he will talk about work efficiency.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about some efficiency here. So essentially, so basically, in terms of efficiency within an information system, you need to really optimize your resources. Meaning, in terms of efficiency, you kind of can view it as doing things the right way, as in being like reducing waste. You know, whether it's time, whether it's just whatever resources, could be money, honestly. So the difference kind of between efficiency and effectiveness is efficiency is like whatever we're doing it the fastest way, we're doing it the least cumbersome way, whereas effectiveness is like, are we doing the right thing? So efficiency is like, okay, take whatever we need to do, and we need to do it as fast as we can, as quickly as possible, with as little waste as possible. And a big tie with this is information technology. It's hardware that can host the software in order to make things, increase the speed of things and reduce waste in those terms. So some metrics of efficiency would be throughput, the amount of info that can like travel through a system. If you're limited in terms of hardware, software, and the amount of information is limited. You don't have a high degree of throughput. That's not very efficient. Same thing with, transaction speed, where it's, the amount of time it takes a system to perform any given transaction. So that obviously is a metric of efficiency as well. So, if you're slow at your transaction speeds, that is not a very efficient information system at all. System availability, you know what I mean? Like the hours that a system, is available to be used. If your system's constantly having downloads and updates and there's certain given scheduled, like a good amount of time that there's no availability, you know what I mean? A good chunk of time that there's not available access. I mean, that's not very efficient either. Like you need to be able to for the system to be available for you to use it for good portions of time, essentially. You know what I mean? It's not something that you can have, only available to you sometimes. The accuracy of the information that whether you're collecting, you know what I mean, the results that you're getting through your systems, it has to be accurate. If it's not accurate, that just creates, a less efficient system, and it's going to require you to go back and double check and somehow get the accurate results, but at a huge expense of time and probably money as well. And then, response time, you know what I mean? So all these pieces tie into efficiency, and mostly they rely on time and speed. And when you think of an efficient system, you don't think of a slow system. So clearly all these little bits and pieces need to be accurate, because if you're not accurate, you're gonna have to go back, and that's gonna waste time. If you're slow with transaction speeds, that's gonna waste time as well. So all these pieces really tie into efficiency very clearly. So some examples of efficiency would be basically your record keeping, like being able to create records and store them and expound upon those records, like the growth of a record. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to using paper or something, like you want a cloud system, which is much more efficient for, because at a certain point, it could be reasonable for you to use paper, but, with that, like every business should, if they're not dying, they're going to be growing, and more records need to be kept, and it's less and less easy to do. The bigger it gets, the more records you have. So it's not very effective to use paper. You got to have a more efficient system than that, and that's why a cloud, for example, would be good. That ties right into the operations costs, right? I mean, if you're paying people to do these things, then it's not very efficient, especially as you get more and more records. That's more and more time put out, as opposed to using an information system, specifically a cloud, data center. I mean, that's going to save you a bunch of time. It doesn't really matter how many records you have at that point. You can access them just as fast. A payroll system would be another example of efficiency, as opposed to having someone manually do payroll every 2 weeks or whatever it may be. I mean, you have a system that's set into place. I mean, you have, computerized, time clocks that you punch in, and it's automatically in the system, and it calculates the pay and the hours, and it prints out or automatically deposits money into your bank account, whatever it may be. But it doesn't take a human to go through individual steps and waste a bunch of time. So efficiency through payroll system. Stored information is going to help your future decisions. You know what I mean? Like whether it's, predicting sales or demands or profits. I mean, like having that ability of the stored information to be in a given information system is what's going to really help, like, speed up the process of decision making, in terms of, like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? Like, we have all this data, like, easy access to data, it being stored is going to really help you make decisions in the future, just as well as the future decision making, and being able to use information to, help you out with future decisions. What about looking at information of the past? I mean, if you didn't have an effective information system, or some sort of data center to hold these things, and you were, like, using paper for some reason, I mean, you'd have such a hard time, and honestly, you wouldn't be able to efficiently find your records or use them. It would just be way too cumbersome. And same with customer interaction. I mean, it's way more efficient to use an information system to interact with customers. I mean, whether it's, taking down their customer information, it's basically things like that. All these bullet points right here really tie into efficiency. These are common things people do businesses do in order to increase their efficiency within their information system. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Dave here.
All right. Now, Chris just explained to you how information systems can be work efficient. I'll be explaining how information systems can lead to more work effectiveness. So let me pull up my slideshow. All right. And just to clarify, a simple way to differentiate the two: work efficiency is doing the right thing, while work effectiveness is doing the right. Let me clarify that. Work efficiency is doing the thing right, while work effectiveness is doing the right thing. So first off, while efficiency is mainly focused on cutting costs, work effectiveness' main focus is pursuing the right goals. Companies can either both be efficient and effective. They can also neither be efficient nor effective, or they can be efficient without being effective, and vice versa. An example of an information system that is both efficient and effective is Apple's iPhone. Apple's senior vice president, Jonathan Ives, said that Apple's goal is not to make money. Their goal is to make quality products, and that the money will come with that. Jonathan also talked about how the return of Steve Jobs to Apple in 1997 saved it from bankruptcy. Instead of focusing on ways to make money, he focused on creating better products. This is an example of how Apple was an effective company, and they still remain effective until this day. The iPhone is also efficient due to their cheap labor costs. Apple outsources their manufacturing to a company called Foxconn. Even though Apple has been criticized for using this company due to unethical practices, it is still cheap and efficient. Foxconn assembly workers will make as much as $400 a month. That's 160 working hours a month, so the hourly pay is about $2.50, which is really cheap, and which is why Apple can get away with their large profit margins. These workers on a given day will work 3 screens a minute for 12 hours. Apple is trying to make labor practices more fair for Foxconn, and recently Foxconn announced that they are opening up a manufacturing plant in Wisconsin that has $10 billion US dollars invested into it. This could lead to more ethical practices since it is in the United States. Either way, this is one of the main ways Apple is able to keep their expenses low, which makes them efficient along with being effective. An example of an information system that is efficient but is not effective is in the airline industry. This information system is an airline reservation system. Each airline usually has a customer create an account before booking a flight. What this system does is it keeps track of every flight that the customer had flown on, the distance that they have flown, what they ordered on that flight, and this allows them to leave a rating at the end. This leads airlines to be more efficient because they can forecast information for future years to what time of the year and to time of the day that they have flown on. They will be the most busiest, and the amount of food that they will need to bring on each flight in correlation to the time traveled on this flight. This is what that air reservation system can do for them. Every air traveler is now familiar with the cost-cutting efficiencies of contemporary air travel, from smaller seats to baggage fees to airplane food that is cheap and to not of the highest quality. More specifically, the airlines that I want to focus on are Southwest and Spirit. These airlines focus on cheaper costs while sacrificing a quality flight. They are efficient because they keep their costs low. However, they are not too effective since their only goal is to make the cheapest flight possible. Their customer satisfaction is relatively low because people do not enjoy the comfort on these flights. The seats are very close together, which leaves the passengers with little to no legroom. However, people still choose these airlines since they are the cheapest airlines out there, which is why they're still able to succeed in their industry. That is all for today. Thank you for listening to Chris and I present.
Thank you.